everybody, and welcome to Blue Jays Today. We're your boys. We always got something to say about the Toronto Blue Jays. I'm your host, Nicholas Blaylock.
And I'm your host, Diamond Peddle. And today, guys, if you are reading the title, the Blue Jays, they signed 9 players. They've never played in Major League Baseball before, but they still signed 9 players. Those are the international players, the 16, the 17-year-olds who come up through other countries and end up having some great careers. You know, we've had a lot of success at the Blue Jays with the international signings, so let's hope and let's break down some of these players. Let's hope that they're going to become players one day for the Blue Jays. And as well, we got to address some rumors about Blake Snell. We're going to get into that a little bit later. Before we do, guys, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to Blue Jays Today.
Yeah, so the Jays went out. They signed a bunch of young guys. Now, most of in fact, I would argue that probably all of these players you have most likely never heard of. I have never heard of these individuals until they literally popped up on my Twitter feed. But we're going to learn, guys, because these could be the players of the future. I mean, perfect example, Vladimir Guerrero Jr.,
Who's that guy?
Yeah, literally. Who is that guy? That is our superstar, and he was an international free agent at one point, signed to the Toronto Blue Jays. You also had Gabriel Moreno, same situation. Alejandro Kirk, same situation. There's been a lot of good players that the Toronto Blue Jays have grown, developed, and then either kept on their team or traded away for other assets that come from this international class. So clearly they know what's going on overseas.
Yeah, they do, and you never know which ones could really hit. Obviously, you know, for those who don't know how it works, is you got to kind of like, you got to pay for these players. You got to sign them to a big bonus. You know, for example, Elvis Martinez, I think his bonus was $3.5 million. He was one of the top guys. And as you can clearly see, he's developing into one of our top prospects right now, right? So he got a big bonus where, you know, it doesn't necessarily translate, though. We've had other guys in our system, like, come through, and we've given bonuses of, like, what, $800,000? So, yeah, like, we didn't get one of the big bonus players, but we got good enough players that maybe one day they could be dudes. You never know. Let's
take a look at those guys right now. And, I mean, I think that's a great sentiment that you just had there, too, like, talking about how the money doesn't really mean anything, because, let's face it, these are kids, you know,
16-year-olds.
Literally, like, they are 16. So there is so much development that is yet to happen, right? So you can project all you want, but really you have no idea. However, the quote-unquote biggest name that the Toronto Blue Jays got from this international class, we got Franklin Rojas. He's the kid that's standing there right on the left, Venezuelan catcher. Venezuela, they can produce a mean catcher.
Yes,
they have been doing so pretty regularly in recent memory. So this guy is getting paid $1.1 million, and I do believe that he was the 27th
That's correct.
ranked guy, 27th ranked guy in all of the international signings. Again, take it with a grain of salt because these kids still have a lot of time left to grow and develop and to get better.
Yeah, overall, if you were to project, I mean, no one knows anything, again, because they're literal children. But if you were to say, how did the international I almost want to say free agent class, but it kind of is, the international class do for the Blue Jays? I mean, it was not the best that we've seen. I mean, yeah, Franklin Rojas is definitely a highlighting of it, but it's not the greatest, it's not the sexiest, it's not the flashy, it's not the Vladimir Guerrero Jr., it's not his brother.
Right.
he kind of highlighted it today, going over to the Mets. We'll look at that a little bit later. But yeah, we kind of got like, you know, the safer kind of floor of guys, I guess. You know, we kind of spread it out, all of our signing pool money.
Yeah, 100%, dude. But, I mean, the fact that we went out, we targeted a catcher, I kind of like that because, I mean, I brought it up a little earlier here, but Moreno and Alejandro Kirk, both international guys, both catchers. Clearly, the Toronto Blue Jays, they know something about going out, finding a good catcher, and then developing them into a major league player, right? They have done that before. I would imagine that this kid being 16 years old, like, they see something there, even though he's ranked 27th, they could totally grow this kid into something really strong in, 6-7 years.
Yeah, I mean, he's already taken on a bit of a leadership role with the Venezuelan team, the Under-12 World Cup in 2019 in Taiwan. And then in 2022, he was also in the Under-15 World Cup. And I think he was declared, I saw somewhere else, they don't have it here, but he was the team captain.
Yeah.
So obviously he's got some big leadership roles, and they like that. And now they kind of describe his player profile, but I could probably best describe it as kind of like Danny Jansen in a way. Like, because Danny Jansen, he swings the bat hard, has a good swing, and makes loud contact. There's no talking of him having a great, like, approach at the plate or a great contact, because that's more of an Alejandro Kirk kind of profile for the bat. But for his bat, it's a lot like Danny Jansen, and he's great behind the plate.
Yeah.
He's got great baseball IQs. And if you want me to toss it out there, he does have some good speed upside. Gabriel Moreno had that upside too.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't say he's projected to be like a Gabriel Moreno, but I could see him realistically becoming like another Danny Jansen for the future.
100%, dude. And I mean, clearly that is somebody who is working out very well with the Toronto Blue Jays. He's in the last year of his deal. That's something that we got to talk about, him potentially getting paid and sticking with the team. But I like this a lot, man. I like this a lot that they're seeing something there, that he does have some similar characteristics to a player that we know and that we love. And yeah, he absolutely could become a guy. Moving on from him, we got a few other dudes. We're not going to spend too long on these guys because, again, I mean, like, literally anything can happen, folks. We're talking about 16-year-olds here, so, like, they can change, they can develop. But I know that this Arias kid, he was up there as well. Ranked 34th right there. And then you also had Guzman at 32nd. Shortstop, outfielder. Looks like we're targeting the hitters. I'm all about it because especially when you look over at our prospect pool too, we do have a lot of pitchers in our prospect system.
Right.
So go out, get a few hitters. I mean, they are planning for the future. Both of them kind of, similarly have some good characteristics, have some stuff that they have to work on, but that is to be expected about literal teenagers.
Yeah, I mean, Arias, the one thing they really, really love about Arias is that he's kind of already filled out a bit more. They use this term filling out because obviously a 16-year-old doesn't have the man muscles. You don't have the adult, characteristics, right? The physical characteristics. So, but what they like about Arias, he's already starting to develop that at 16. And he does have a lot of power. And for right now, he's kind of profiling like a corner outfielder right now. So for him, he kind of reminds me of like Aroldis Martinez, but for the outfield corners, you know what I mean? And hey, look, we don't have many outfielders in our system, and yeah, we're not going to see this guy for 6 years, 8 years, even like touching the top of the prospect pool. But still, it's nice to know that we're adding depth there because that's something that the Blue Jays just do not have, is any outfield depth at all.
Yeah, 100%, dude. So that is what the Toronto Blue Jays have done with their international money. There is obviously literally 6 other players that we didn't even touch on here. They signed 9 of them. They are a little bit further down the pecking order as people have it right now.
Yeah.
But once again, you never know. Anything can happen with these players. So it's good to see the Toronto Blue Jays, they're going out, they're being active with it.
See, it's like those kind of players, not throwing any shade at these players, but when you're playing MLB The Show and you get a D potential,
right?
That's kind of what it is. You got a 55 here, 55 is actually pretty good for a D potential player. But that's what we're looking at right here. But keep your eye out for Rojas. He's the guy for the future. If you can remember him 8 years from now, then yeah, kudos to you. You remember that day.
Yeah, and I mean, who cares, dude? If they're deep potential, you roll the dice, man.
Yeah.
You roll the dice. You never know, man. I always think back to Kevin Pillar and like his whole situation. Obviously differently because he was drafted and everything.
Yeah,
but I mean, like somebody who was literally nothing and then just became a guy. And that can happen to literally anyone.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You just got to fill out the system. And I know there's people in here saying Jays need to improve on weakness, not strength. I think they're talking about Blake Snell. But just I'm using that for this point here. If you're ever worried about why do we get a catcher, why do we get these players, I think they're just picking best player available.
Totally.
Because you can't see in 2030 what the team's going to look like right now.
We're talking
what I mean?
We're talking 6 years down the line, guys. Like, you have no idea what your team is going to need or your strengths or your weaknesses or, like, literally 6 years later from now, there might even be a good potential or possibility that nobody that's on the team right now is still on the team. Everyone could be gone. It could be a completely different squad. So it's just completely impossible to project for what that's going to look like. We are going to get to the Blake Snell stuff momentarily, folks. But first, quick shout out over here to Vladimir Guerrero Jr.'s brother. He got scooped up by the Mets. I was kind of wondering if the Jays might look at this dude. I mean, maybe they did. It would have been kind of interesting having both the bros on the squad, but the Mets eventually, they locked him down.
Yeah, no, they did. And look, it didn't even really cost that much.
No.
I'm looking at it the first time, $117,000. I don't know why we're not splashing that money around. Like, why not bring him to the system? You know what I mean?
I mean, maybe, again, like, everybody seemingly thinks that they know things about these players.
Right.
So, potentially this kid just doesn't have the same type of firepower that, him or his brother or his dad does,
I would have just did it for the fun.
Because.
Just because. Like, what? Let's do it.
Yeah.
Who cares?
We can make a Vladdy father-brother bobblehead.
Yeah, like,
you can have
what
a
is going on?
three-peat bobblehead right there.
For real, like, yeah, even if he doesn't become anything, like, okay, whatever. $117,000. That's nothing to you, Blue Jays.
Literally.
Who cares, man?
It'd probably make Guerrero happy too.
Exactly.
Yeah, but apparently they don't care about that right now because obviously, and this is still an ongoing thing right now. Arbitration stuff happening.
Oh yeah.
I did see some people kind of discussing this on the internet. I don't want to get too deep into it, because at the end of the day, like this is just something that happens in the MLB. But it is kind of shitty because now, like the way that it's kind of structured, you now need to go and effectively argue as to why this player is not as valuable as he thinks he is. Yeah. And then he has to argue against you, and it's kind of like it pits you against one another. So it's like you're pulling out all of these arguments as to like, hey, Guerrero, like you grounded into all these double plays. You suck, but we still want you, but like, you suck, I know. It's just so stupid, man.
And I think that's one of the main reasons why they got the extension with Bo Bichette done.
Just to avoid this.
Avoid that conversation.
Yeah.
Instead of saying, okay, well, let's stop talking about how bad you are, how you're $2 million worth less than what you think you are. Instead, let's talk about how we can continue our relationship.
Yeah.
That's a much more healthier conversation. And when we first were talking about that, we kind of didn't address that reality. I'm glad that we're bringing it up right now. Because, I mean, that's the last thing you kind of want, right? Like, you want to have them focus on the game. If you had an offseason of just getting shit on while you're trying to improve, going to the gym and getting better for your team, and then coming to the season, your second last year, having that in the back of your mind, I'm thinking about free agency pretty soon.
Well, exactly, right? And I don't want to overreact about this. I don't want to overreact because this is something, again, that happens to all MLB teams, and that there's a lot of players that go through this, and it's a hard time to reach an agreement. And $2 million, that's nothing to scoff at. But it is a real thing that if they do have to go deep into the process, they are going to have to go at each other, and there are going to be some potentially sour feelings. And that's something that if you're the Jays, you need to really consider and be like, okay, is this $2 million? How much of it? How much or how much? How much is that worth to us?
How much is it worth? Yeah.
Because like, do we really want to create a sour environment and get a bad taste in Guerrero's mouth? Or do we just want to suck it up, pay him the $2 million, and hopefully we can lock him down later?
Do you remember Corbin Burns on the Milwaukee Brewers? I think this came out in spring training when he had to go through his arbitration.
Yeah, I do remember that.
Yeah, and he got through it this year. Shout out to Jeffrey Woodruff with the subscription.
Shout out, thank you.
But they went through it very quick this year, so everyone's like, oh, thank God, the drama's over. But back last year when he went through the same process, essentially in an interview, Corbin Burns revealed that the Brewers told him, he's the reason why they, I think, either missed playoffs. I can't remember correctly.
Yeah.
Did they miss playoffs 2 years ago, or were they lost in the playoffs? They basically blamed him. That's the reason why they had a bad year. The reason
their season ended is because of you, this literal Cy Young candidate.
Literally.
That's insanity.
Pathetic.
That's just insanity, dude. And I mean, obviously, like, it's got to do with money. So they're trying every argument that they can, to come up with as to why we need to save $2 or $3 or $4 million on you. But there just comes a point where you have to ask yourself, like, yes, like $3 million or $2 million or whatever it was is a lot of money. But do we really want to create that bad aura around this team? Because that's something that gets out there, right? I mean, Corbin Burns came out and he spoke publicly about it, and then everyone was like, Milwaukee, what the frick? Why are you doing this to your literal best player? That's not a good public image,
Well, what do you think they would say to Vladimir Guerrero Jr. to bring down his dollars? Let's say they forget about trying to save the relationship. They're just like, okay, we're focused. We really got to get these dollars down for whatever reason. Horrible decision. What would they say to him? Oh, you just aren't worth what you were supposed to be.
Well, okay. I mean, I think actually, they do have some arguments.
They do have a great argument. They do.
The arguments are, you lead the league in double plays grounded into. This is a factual thing. This is literally something that he has done. You are not nearly as good defensively as we think that you should be, even though you want to go.
Yeah, but that's such
year. Last year, you just were not there defensively speaking. So I think that those would be like two of the really big ones. And then they would probably go back to, because again, this is a whole arbitration thing, right? Yeah. They probably go back to 2021 and be like, okay, well, that's where we were starting to pay you. But like, you're not there anymore.
That's because that's what I'm looking at. Look, this was in 2021. He was pre-arb, so like he got his first arbitration figure
in 2022.
In 2022, when they was
based off of 2021.
Oh, MVP too. Like you're on Juan Soto kind of projection right now, where you're like, okay, this guy's an MVP like every year, and then you just didn't. And so your pre-arb is gonna still, your first year arb is gonna kind of funnel into snowball to the other league. It impacts
all
the rest
of the rest of the timeline.
Right. So clearly, you got to be lower because we got to slow down that snowball because it's clearly not where we thought it was going to go.
Yeah, no, I think that they actually have like a scarily strong argument against
Which
Guerrero.
Sucks.
And yeah, that's the thing. Like, if you're the Blue Jays, like, you kind of want to exercise that because you want to save $2 million, but at the same point, you don't want to piss off your apparently star guy and then have him, getting sour on you with 2 years left until free agency. So just stuff to consider there, guys. We do not want to blow this out of proportion, but something to think about.
Yeah, it is for sure. Man, what is this team, guys? Look, comment down below. What the hell is this team? If you got to this point in the video, because I'm thinking about the future of this team, it was so clear to me 2 years ago, we're going to sign one of Bo or Vlad. I have no idea if that's even going to happen anymore. I don't know if this team's going to be here to, the same kind of characters next year.
Yeah.
That's how scary it is.
I have some thoughts on that, but before I get into it, guys, let's give a quick shout out to the sponsor of this video.
Whoa! Time for your daily Betway breather. A quick reminder that the best place to bet is on Betway. Must be 19 years of age or older to play. In collaboration with iGaming Ontario, please bet responsibly. Now, back to the content.
Shout out to Betway, everybody. They are absolutely phenomenal. If you're interested in sports betting whatsoever, hop on to Betway. Obviously, the general consensus around the Toronto Blue Jays right now, based on the offseason, based on how the last few playoff appearances have gone, based on effectively everything that we've seen in the last 3 years leading up to this point, people are down. People are down on this team, and rightfully so. There is a reason to be angry, and there are also reasons to have a lot of concern with this ball team. I was looking for an excuse to talk about this, and I think this is perfect, though.
Okay.
As a lot of you guys know, and people were commenting prior to us even going live, they were talking about how Green Bay absolutely dismantled the Dallas Cowboys yesterday on live television. That is something that happened. They dismantled the Dallas Cowboys. They embarrassed the absolute hell out of them. And just a few months prior, that Green Bay Packers team was going nowhere. There was no Jordan Love was terrible at football. There was no way that they were ever going to make playoffs. This is a full rebuild. Literally, it was the epitome of bad. And I started to believe it as well. But it just goes to show, based on what they did yesterday to make it into playoffs, to have Jordan Love play the way that he did. If you guys are football fans, you know what I'm talking about. And to dismantle America's team on live television, it goes to show that we get down on these squads all the time. But in reality, anything can happen, guys. Anything can happen. So when we're asking ourselves, what is this team? Even though we have an opinion of it right now, I'm still kind of holding out hope. And watching that Green Bay team is making me feel more hopeful about what this Toronto Blue Jays team could be. Because we don't know.
Yeah, fair enough. It could be anything, really. I saw a quote by Ross Atkins earlier today that he actually feels optimistic that the free agents are taking this long to sign. Whereas a lot of us are starting to panic because I think we're used to the last few years of getting all of our free agents, getting all the big ones out of the way first, and then kind of having the complimentary guys come through. But he feels very optimistic that the fact that Bellinger and Chapman both have not signed, and that maybe there could be a possibility the Blue Jays maybe get one of them or get another guy too, like a Soler, like a JD Martinez, like a Jock Peterson, because they need to go. They need ball teams. So yeah, right now it sucks. I'm still optimistic that we can get one of those guys, and that's not going to determine our season. We still need 25 other players to put up, So I don't know. Maybe I could believe. I know I'm going to start believing when it comes time. When the spring training's there, I'm seeing the boys put up if Vladdy's hit 5 home runs in spring training, I'm going to really buy in. I'm buying in heavy. So we'll have to see, guys. We'll have to see.
I just think that it's a different story every season, and the off seasons are long, and off seasons are so long that you really start to buy into what it is that you're being fed as total fact. And let's face it, right? We are even feeding it to you guys, the fact that we are down on the Toronto Blue Jays. And like I said, there's a lot of reasons for doing that. There's a lot of reasons to feel that way. But after watching what happened yesterday for my favorite football team, it's making me reconsider.
You're a believer now.
I'm just saying, it's we don't know. I don't want to be so quick to count these guys out because every season is a different story. And who fucking knows?
Look, I'll say this, and I'm very vocal about my opinion on the Jays here on Blue Jays Today, but I'll say this, I'm upset. I think the most thing I'm upset about is Ross Atkins' failure to deliver thus far. Like that's what I'm upset about. Because I did believe, based on what we saw last year, you needed to get some insurance. It wasn't like, we have to get this player or we're going to suck balls. You know what I mean? Like, we needed a player to provide insurance so that if our guys didn't end up breaking out, like if they did exactly what they did last year offensively, if we go and we add a Bellinger and he played like he did last year, like, okay, like, that elevates everybody. But I still believe some players are going to have bounce back years. That's very likely based on what they did last year. So if they bounce back and you got a player with insurance, well, maybe that's the push we needed to go even further than the next step, right? Because if we were expected to win a playoff game or we won a playoff series last year, right, if that was the next expectation, like imagine we just skipped ahead again and now we're in the LCS. Like that's why I'm upset, because I assumed that was the same mindset, but we haven't seen it all be said and done yet.
Yeah,
we're still gotta wait.
No, I mean, we really are effectively a slave to our expectations, right? I mean, we set the bar and they haven't hit the bar once, you know. And this offseason, there again are reasons to be pissed off because of that.
Tony Friend saying, IKF bounce back. We're safe, boys.
We gotta hope, man. We literally we gotta hope, dude. We gotta hope for something, or potentially Orelvis Martinez, one of our former international signings. Can he come up and can he make a difference?
I'm down for that.
I'm so down for that, like, dude.
Let's try.
I was actually talking about that on a recent video that I put out, and I was looking at all of the prospects in our top 10 system here, and there are 6 of them, 6 in the top 10, who are all set to either come up last year in 2023 or in 2024. Yeah. Right? So, like, there's a lot of people who are potentially MLB ready to get going.
See, and that's the thing. Like, yeah, they're MLB ready, but will they have a job? Because that's the thing. IKF, you just took my boy's job, Martinez. Like, what the hell?
I'm hoping it's just a Band-Aid thing. It's just like, hey, slap it in. You're there for the first few months. If you're terrible, you're gone. If not, we can be there for a while.
See, I would have said that if it was a 1-year deal. It's a 2-year deal.
I know. So I keep coming back to that, dude.
Listen. I will buy in that there's a Band-Aid on this team if we get rid of Espinal. Oh, it's Espinal. I'm sorry. We got to keep Biggio. We're not going to trade away Schneider. Like, if Espinal leaves this team, then I have hope that we have a prospect coming. I love it. I love Espinal. Great player for the Jays. Just like in his role, he's done well for the Jays. I'm ready for someone else. But here's the thing. You have a great big prospect that deserves to play every day. Right. And he's not going to play every day with all these dudes here. So that's why, I don't know, man. That's what we need. Or you need an injury or something. Like, something needs to happen for him to get a job. Yeah. That you're not expecting.
Well, speaking of saving spots for prospects, folks, let's take a look at the most recent Toronto Blue Jays rumor that's going around right now. Yeah. Toronto Blue Jays' top prospect is Ricky Tiedemann. He is a pitcher. He is a starting pitcher and supposed to be one that is going to be pretty good. But apparently, the Toronto Blue Jays have reportedly been monitoring, quote-unquote, using that words in quotations, monitoring Blake Snell's market, folks. Obviously, Blake Snell, I don't need to go too deep on this guy. Phenomenal. Won the Cy Young last year. You look at the rankings here, the expected numbers, absolutely through the roof. You look at the last few seasons, 2022, 2023, really, really freaking good, dude. This is a player. This is a guy. I did not expect it to be a guy that the Toronto Blue Jays were apparently monitoring.
Hey, I mean, I guess you can kind of say we were monitoring Yamamoto, you know? And I think as any good GM, they keep an eye on what is the market. Yeah. Is he falling? Likely no. Like, someone's going to pay for Blake Snell. Absolutely. Like, they're going to, like, they paid for Yamamoto. So I think, like, they're just watching. Like, it really is nothing, right? Like, look, if you spend all that money, how much is going to get paid this offseason? What, 150 to 200 mil, something around that range?
We were looking at Spotrac's projection. They currently have him sitting at an average annual value of around $24 million. Yeah, just shy of that 23.9. I mean, usually these projections too are typically on the conservative side of things, and typically they get paid more. I could see Snell coming off of a Cy Young year, making 26, 27, even 28 a year for a small period of time, considering he is going to be 32 years old. I just do not see a reality, and I'm not going to get excited about this one, because I don't see a reality with the Toronto Blue Jays, with the pitching rotation that they have right now, with the needs on the offensive side of the ball, and then also the fact that your literal top prospect is a starting pitcher. I just don't see it.
It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. If you're going to spend all that money on a pitcher, and then you're just completely punting the offense this year. Any sort of support that you got for the offense, you're punting it all away.
If we are not winning games 1-0 or 2-1, we're not winning.
But that's the thing. When we went through this, we were talking about this off camera, like, that was literally the game plan last year. Like the way the offense was constructed and how they were performing it, and the way the pitching was performing, it was okay. All we gotta do is score 3 runs, and we're gonna win. And we couldn't even do that.
They couldn't.
We scored 1 in 2 games in the wild card series. So yeah, it does. It makes sense if you're thinking about providing more depth for your pitching rotation.
Sure.
Like, if that was a luxury thing that you could do, for sure. But I think there's just so many more bigger needs, like we've been talking about for months on the channel, that we need to go out and we need to address the hitting first. I think they're monitoring it in case something falls their way. Like, if a great deal falls on the table and it's sign this here now, and like maybe, hey, I don't know, like maybe a favorable deal lands in their pockets where, yeah, you can get Snell for 2 years and then he has an opt-out. That might be actually better for the Blue Jays timeline. Maybe they go and they smash that.
Yeah.
You know?
I also think this is just a comment kind of on sports media coverage in general, guys, but the term monitoring, like, that's actually not anything at all, you know? Like they're...
I'm monitoring the chat right now.
Totally.
I'm just looking.
I mean, like, just any type of thought or you know, provocation about Blake Snell, you are now monitoring the situation, you know? Like, they're monitoring a big trade of Bo Bichette. Because maybe they've thought about it one time, right? I mean, like, that's literally as far as you can take that. So I just think that the wording that they're using right there is inherently meant to make us kind of go crazy. Yeah. But when we really think about it, if they're monitoring the situation, then they're kind of just doing their job as they should be doing.
Yeah, literally.
So like, if something happens where there's a crazy deal, they can swoop in. But I'm not holding my breath here.
I guarantee it was a very simple, like, where this source kind of breaks out, like, oh, Blue Jays are monitoring the situation. I guarantee it was someone talking to, like, a Blue Jays representative, like, hey, so, you guys, looking at any pitching possible? I know you guys are in hitting. Oh, yeah, I mean, like, we've been kind of following along with, like, Blake Snell and, like, his market, but, like, as of right now, you know, we are focused on just maybe the team we have right now and maybe a bat or so. Like, that comment, now it's being blown up. Oh, the Jays, they're making moves on Snell. No, they're just doing their job, like you said. It's a good point.
It's a literal snowball effect that happens. I don't think that Blake Snell is coming to Toronto, folks. I do think, and I see it in the comments right now, that they're looking at Soler. I think that's a real thing. I think that's something that is really happening. There were some reports that came out a little while ago, a few days ago, that he was getting close to a decision.
Yeah.
Still hasn't come out yet, but he is apparently getting close to a decision, so I'm hoping that happens soon. In fact, I'm kind of shocked that we haven't seen a Bellinger situation yet.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck is going on there?
Dude,
I don't understand.
Like, of the good hitters left, Hoskins, Bellinger, Chapman, Soler, Peterson, Martinez, like, those are 6 very good hitters.
Yeah.
It's a month now, guys, until pitchers and catchers are
February
reporting.
24th is the first spring training game.
Yeah,
that's a game.
Pitchers and catchers report on, like, you see, in players will show up to camp too, like 2 weeks before the first game.
We are a month away.
Come on, don't you want to go get your house?
Yeah.
Don't you want to go meet your teammates? What are we waiting for here?
Dude, that's honestly, like, that makes me think the most that Cody Bellinger is going to go back to Chicago.
Yeah,
because there is no rush now for him, you know, because you'd think that if he was really serious about going to another place, then that's something that you want to get out of the way sooner rather than later. You can move your family, you can buy your house, you can get established, you can meet the team, you can do everything. But if you already are in Chicago, you're already totally set up, you know the way that they work, you know the way that they operate, you know all the personnel, you could theoretically wait until the first spring training game to sign. Like, you literally could do that, and it'd be no problem because you're just walking straight back into the clubhouse.
So with that being said, are we thinking that Matt Chapman comes back to the Blue Jays?
Yeah.
Ooh!
Like, I do think that there is kind of some type of narrative there. I don't want to snowball like we were just talking about with the Blake Snell situation. But I do find it weird that, like, a lot of these big names are still remaining on the market right now. And you got to think that the more time that transpires, it just feels more likely. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this is total bullshit. Call me out if you guys think so. But it kind of feels more likely that you would stay in the same place the more time that goes by.
You'd think so.
I
mean, these one-year guys don't have that luxury. The bigger guys,
but bigger guys,
they have that luxury. So I hear you. Real quick, just pivot here. We have someone in the chat asking which 9 players just signed, and it better not be clickbait. Don't you worry. This is a live stream right now. We covered it in the first half. We signed 9 international free agents. If you want, go back in the video, check it out. We covered all there, man.
Yeah, guys, let us know in the comments down below your thoughts, but everything that we talked about in today's video, guys. Tomorrow, we're going to have a little podcast coming out, kind of breaking down coaching changes that the Toronto Blue Jays made from last year to this year. They just revealed everybody's title, all their stuff. Kind of some interesting stuff there that we're going to talk about, guys, so make sure to tune into that.
Yeah, guys, thank you so much for watching.
And as always,
go Jays, go!